Comrades, this is Aurelio Paredes Bautista again. I am a member of the Imus Historical Society, and we shall be talking about the transformation of my hometown, Imus, Cavite, from a peaceful town during the pre-Spanish period up to it's being a hotbed of resistance to Spain, which led to the revolution and the waving of the first flag in victory. I am showing you the organizational chart which I was able to make from my research. The Islamic settlement in Imus was led by a Datu whose title was Gat, and the family was Dula, so he was Gat Dula. He had the advisors with family names now beginning with the Ka. So we know that those people who were the elders were related to the Datu. They were the nobilities. And we have the supply department under Kamaliga, Kamakalima, and Kamakalawa. The finance department under Kamutin, Kamungol, and Kamaklang. Kamutin is Kaamutin, the tax collector. Kamungol is the disburser, and Kamaklang is the one who takes care of presenting whether the money was spent good or not. The Justice Department is headed by Kalitis, or Kalitis now. The weapons is headed by Kadag or Kaitak. The army is headed by Kalimbahin or Kalimbasin, meaning to defeat the enemy. Education is headed by Kamit. Commerce is headed by Kantimbuhan, Kanatinubuan. The festivities are headed by Kamya, Kamatog, and others. Security is headed by Kaloobanan, who takes care of internal security, and Kamanyag, which is Kamatyag, the outside security man. So, these family names are still in Imus now, and I was able to trace them through the yearbooks of the two high schools in our place. And from there, I was able to compose what was deleted by the Spanish authorities when they took over our hometown. I am showing you the hierarchy during the pre-Spanish period. At the top is the Datu. Next to him is the nobility. The third is the freemen. And there are two slaves. The slaves that have their own homes and the slaves that live with the masters. That was the hierarchy when the troops of Legazpi came to Imus. They were converted to Christianity. And after conversion to Christianity, the Datu was given a Christian name and a surname Gatdula. The nobilities were given Christian names and their titles as surnames. So, if his title is Kalitis, his surname became Kalitis. The freemen had Christian names, and their titles as surnames. We have Sayaman, Satingin, Satyatin, etc. The slaves were given names without surnames. They had to wait until Governor General Claveria had to give them family names in 1849. Remember, this is 1571. These are the facts that I am presenting to you. It's very difficult to memorize them, so I put them in writing so that I will never forget. These facts are presented to you in a way that they are events, one coming after another. Number one, the agricultural economy was based on land and slaves in 1571. Number two, the King of Spain freed the slaves in 1589. The Datu, nobilities, and freemen had to pay daily wages, which they could not afford for the big land. The economy supporting the Principalia was shattered. The Datu and nobilities were exempted from paying taxes, but the freemen and former slaves had to pay taxes or perform services for free. Number four, the land was taken over by the religious, and it became a hacienda without irrigation structures. The Jesuits had nominal control. The British fought the French in North America and defeated them in 1759. Next, the British defeated the French in India in 1760. Spain was an ally of France. The British East India Company attacked and took Manila in 1762. Number 8. The British took supplies from Imus. The British returned Manila to the Spaniards in 1764 after the Treaty of Paris and after receiving indemnities. Number 10. The Spanish king exiled the Jesuits who gave the supplies to the British. The Jesuits were sent to Europe in 1767. The Recoletos took over the hacienda and grouped together all the houses in the town proper as a form of reduction. The Recoletos built dams and irrigation canals at a very huge cost. Number 13. The Recoletos called for higher rents of land rental. Harvests were steadily decreasing because they were not using crop rotation. Luis de los Santos, a renter who is half Spanish, was booted out for his inability to pay rent for the land. He became a tulisan, a bandit, and he was now called Luis Parang. Number 15, Imus separated from Kawit in 1795. 16, the French Revolution led by Freemasons and espousing liberalism in Europe happened. And it was between 1789 to 1799 that France was in a bloody revolution. 17. Napoleon launched a coup d'etat in 1799 in France and raised a huge army to control Europe. Liberalism in Spain led to the growth of Freemasonry. Number 19. Mexico and South America revolted, and they were led by the Freemasons. By 1822, only Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines were the only remaining colonies of Spain. In Spain, the liberals and the clerics were vying for superiority. They were fighting each other in a bloody internecine war. In 1870, King Amadeo, a Freemason, ruled Spain. 21. A lot of Tulisans were in Cavite in protest of the unjust rule in the haciendas. The liberal governor-general took Eduardo Camerino as head of Guia de la Provincia de Cavite to fight the bandits. In 1872, the friars accused Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, 3 secular priests, of planning a revolt. The Guias, who were close to Father Gomez of Bacoor, was accused too, and Camerino, the head of the Guias, was executed in the way Gombursa were killed by garrote. Number 24. Jose Rizal was influenced by such unfair executions of Gombursa, and when he went to Spain for further studies, he passed through the Suez Canal, which was already open in 1869. Liberalism by then was spreading in the whole world. 25. He saw in Spain a liberalism that he dreamed for the Philippines. He joined Freemasonry and wrote Noli and Fili to have the Philippines not so free, still under Spain, but under a liberal administration. Freemasonry was spreading in the Philippines, aided by governor-generals who were Freemasons like Izquierdo and Blanco, and the others whose name I will not say here, but they were secret Freemasons who remained unrecognized by the friars. Rizal was deported to the Pitan due to his Noli and Fili. He was ordered deported by a Freemason who was in Manila, a Spaniard who was unrecognized by the friars. On the same day, the Katipunan was founded by Freemasons. The island-born Spaniards were treated as second class after the independence of colonies in the Americas. Spain-born Spaniards were promoted ahead of senior local officers. The locals turned to Freemasonry, and a revolution was started. Rizal was executed because he was accused of complicity in the revolution. Aguinaldo was made president. 30. On the day that the oath of office was taken by Aguinaldo as president, the revolutionists lost the Battle of Pasong Santol. I shall make a short narration of this later. Aguinaldo retreated to Biak na Bato, where he accepted exile to Hong Kong. America declared war to Spain over an incident in Cuba and destroyed the Spanish fleet in Manila Bay. Aguinaldo was brought back to Cavite with plenty of guns, and the Spanish Marines, pursuing Aguinaldo in the hope of capturing him, lost in the Battle of Alapan. I shall be relating to you the two battles. One is in the Battle of Pasong Santol, when the Spanish forces came from Spain. The Spaniards went through Silang, killing all the rebels there, which they encountered. Passing through Das Marinas, they killed also all the rebels that they encountered. Now they are at Pasong Santol. 8,000 Spanish forces against 300. But they did not know that. Their intelligence information was defective. So there was a seesaw battle in Pasong Santol. But in the end, after 3 days, the 300 had to succumb. And so, the Spanish forces went to Imus. That was one part. And the rest went here, trying to surround Aguinaldo, which they thought was here, still in Kawit. The second battle was in the Battle of Palapan when the Americans brought Aguinaldo back to the Philippines. But there is that irrigation tunnel there between Alangilan River and a small river here, a creek. This irrigation tunnel was to give irrigation to Kawit. When before, the rebels had to take refuge here as the Spanish forces was passing by in order to surround Aguinaldo here. They took refuge here without the knowledge of the Spaniards. Now, this tunnel will provide a very valuable role. Now, in the Battle of Palapan, when the Spaniards got wind of Aguinaldo being brought by the Americans to Kawit, they sent the Marines in small boats from Manila Bay, and they encamped in Alapan. Some 300 of them. Some 300. But their presence is known by the people here and people here, people there and people here. They did not know that they were surrounded. They had very defective intelligence information. They did not know that the Filipinos have plenty of guns. And here is where the Filipinos made the rockets, the powder for the rockets, which the Spaniards called cohetes, and which we Filipinos called cuitis. And we also made plenty of tube cannons with plenty of gunpowder and plenty of scrap metals, and this irrigation tunnel, and plenty of food, and plenty of people wanting to take revenge because of the defeat in Pasong Santol. The Spanish Marines, the gallant men who are really fighters, had no hope of survival. And so, Hipólito Sakilayan was the leader here, plenty, outnumbering the Spaniards here, and Pedro Hanolino, Pedro Castilla, a Spaniard himself who turned rebel, was heading the Filipinos here. And so, the information, the food, the powder, the arms were passing through the tunnel. And when the fight began, the Spaniards were almost losing their supplies. They have very low supplies now. And then the attack, and there is a waiting force here, waiting for them to take their retreat. And so, the Spaniards had to capitulate. And in Alapan, the first Filipino flag made in Hong Kong, brought back by Aguinaldo to Cavite, was waved in victory. They surrendered here, and the stragglers, some of them, were captured here in Toklongkawit, in the land of Sauler, and that became the symbol of the Wagayway, the waving of the flag. I'm showing you a proposed poem for the Bantayog of the Battle of Alapan, a monument for the Battle of Alapan. I am the poet of Cavite, awarded by the De La Salle Universidad das Marinas. I am the Makatang Caviteño. And I made this because of the request to make a poem for the monument. It says here, isang bansang nagtitiis, nagpipigil tiimbagang. Lumabis na ang dayuhan at ang api ay tumapang. Lahi pa lang nagmamahal sa laya at kanyang bayan, mag-aalsa at wagayway ng watawat ilalaban. Friends, this is Aurelio Paredes Bautista again, speaking to you. Thank you for watching the long narrative that I presented here that led to the Battle of Alapan. I am a Freemason myself. My grandfather was wounded in the Battle of Pasun Santol, and his two brothers were killed there. In the Battle of Alapan, my grandfather, who was a cousin of Hipólito Sakilayan, was also there. And he narrated to me a short story. Of course, it was gilded with stories of anting-anting and all that, you know. In Cavite, when you are fighting for a battle, you have to use some kind of an amulet. And so, the anting-anting started during the Battle of Alapan and because of the hidden tunnel. So, that's all for now. And see you again, comrades.